So, Roy, before we talk about the partnership, why don't you tell us just a little bit more about yourself and about Hohoka and maybe like what problems you guys are trying to solve?
Yeah, of course. Well, I started this Hohoka when I start being a father. When have you ever noticed that when we were young, when we were kids, our parents could easily picture what we would look like growing up, our majors, our jobs, our lifestyles. But today, well, for kids, when they're growing up uh, in this AI era, I honestly cannot imagine what kind of world will look like to them when they become adults. I truly believe more than half or maybe more of the knowledge taught in school today might just become irrelevant, incorrect, or simply obsolete. So, what kids desperately need is a real world life skill. So, which is entrepreneurship. I've been involved in entrepreneurship for like 2 decades. So that's what I do. And I decided to start up this Hohoka. And our core belief is entrepreneurship as a life skill. Well, Taiwanese kids are incredibly smart. They consistently top international academic chart, but I notice a painful gap. They are masters at answering other people's questions, but not at solving their own problems. So traditional education feeds them knowledge, but rarely give them a sandbox to experiment or to fail. So we ultimately want to reach every kid who wants to be the CEO of their own life, especially for my kids. That's why I started Whole.
That's amazing. And so you started to see it in the school system yourself, all it through your kids, realizing that, like I said, in Taiwan, it's like the education system is built so that students are really good at the academics, at answering others' questions, but it was that actual life skills problem solving piece that's missing.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so then Hohoka is, like you said, based around teaching life skills, teaching entrepreneurship. And so tell us when you were sort of developing entrepreneurship curriculum or evaluating different entrepreneurship education programs, what kind of were you looking for? What was most important?
I think that's definitely dare to fail. And
Mm.
well, it's very similar to what I believe it's BizWorld's value proposition. And also in Hohoka, the most important thing I want to share with our kids in Taiwan is through the entrepreneurship, you can feel other people's pain point and find the solution. I think that's one of the most key important thing for the whole entrepreneurship education, finding the pain points and find the solutions, of course.
And one that, I mean, I guess this goes a little bit into the curriculum. Like, how do you teach kids, teach students to find other people's pain points, to observe them, and then become solution oriented to be able to fix them?
Well, I think that's a very important thing to distinguish AI and us human. Well, one thing that very human I don't think that AI can really replace is how to feel the pain. So, well, when we start our own curriculum, the BizWorld in Taiwan, very important thing is we ask our kids to look around their environment, your classroom, your school, at home. Is there anything that troubles you, yourself, or people you care, like your friends, your parents? And then that's where you start.
Look around your own environment, right? What's troubling
That's right.
you, your friends, your parents, and then actually start there. Beautiful.
That's right.
And so, what would you say was the biggest problem that you were trying to solve in the Taiwanese school system when you brought BizWorld in?
I think the key issue here is, as you may be aware, Taiwan is a tech island, and many parents' mindset are already quite open. Furthermore, we have fantastic experimental education group, private school, and excellent public schools. Many teachers, educators, they're already open-minded. But inevitably, many Asian parents, like in Taiwan, still, they are still heavily focused on the scores. We can call it educational ROI. It's very commonly seen FAQs are, my child isn't going to be an entrepreneur. Why take this? Why entrepreneur is so important? What is there anything to do with her grades? So I think one thing I want to change in Taiwan is I want our strategy wasn't to change the curriculum itself, but we want to translate its value to let some educators, schools, and parents to understand why entrepreneurship is so important. Like our hashtag, it's a life skill. So our strategy is we'll let them know that entrepreneurship program like Hohoka and BizWorld, we're trying to build critical thinking, risk management, cross-functional communication, the exact soft skills like TSMC, Google, Meta, those tech giants looking for. So once parents saw their kids coming home analyzing family expenses or pitching ideas to improve their plans on weekends, they were completely sold. So yeah, that's something I try to achieve.
I love how you made that so tangible. Two different things that I pulled away there was that you gave the context of look at these tech giants of what are the skills that they are actively looking for, right?
That's
That can
right.
take a parent's mind from, well, this isn't going to improve their grades necessarily, um,
Yep.
even though we can easily argue that it will, but it won't directly improve their exam grades. But look, it will prepare them to get the jobs that you want them to be able to get. And then
That's right.
also bringing it down to something tangible you can see that now on the weekends, right, your kids will be offering up ideas to help solve problems of making the weekend plans better or how they could adjust them. That's critical thinking.
Yes, yes. And I think really change parents and teachers their attitude and how they see this kind of project-based learning program, especially these words. Because I think what they will realize, they see they see the checkpoints actually changing. It's happening in their real life. So when usually the kids are too shy to raise hands, but in visual program, they will maybe be a leader in the marketing campaign, or usually they see their kids as problem makers, but when they have some problems, their kids can jump in and become a problem solver. So I think those something they will be very surprised at what entrepreneurship programs can bring them and their kids. I really enjoy that.
Me too. You've described BizWorld as creating context for children to experience decision making rather than just receiving knowledge. Like, what does that shift feel like when you realize it and you see it for the first time when education is helping them to actually practice decision making versus just receiving knowledge?
Well, I literally it gave me goosebumps. Yeah, because some Taiwanese students are traditionally very polite, quiet, and a little bit shy. So the first time we ran Bizworld, I saw usually quiet child aggressively using like data to convince his team to change their product pricing. So his eyes were shining, and they knew what they're actually doing. They knew they were not just in a classroom. At that time, they were somewhere else. That amazed me the most.
So, with our international partners, something I really like to explore is how the curriculums and school systems are quite different globally.
Mhm.
There's different expectations globally in different cultures for how children learn. How do you think BizWorld's curriculum could be adapted, or how's it held up being introduced to Taiwanese students and their families?
Like we first discussed, we're a tech island. In our country, we have a lot of great and brilliant engineers. Thanks for our educational systems, we can have such, I would say, excellent engineers building like TSMC and other great companies. But on the other hand, we have a lot of great engineers, but we don't really have much business leaders that can change the world. So I think it comes back to the school system. We standardize many things and we scoring many subjects. But the real problem solving skills, unfortunately, I don't see a lot in our school systems. So I, but that's something by nature and entrepreneurship programs can provide to the kids. So that's something I really expect to introduce these war programs into Taiwanese school systems.
Yeah, to really get that problem solving piece of the puzzle,
That's
which is great. Do you think the BizWorld program like is needing to be adjusted? Like, how are you all adjusting and changing it to adapt specifically for Taiwan?
And that's very important part actually, because one country comparing to the other, there is always cultural gap, and something fits in the United States, probably not that perfect in Taiwan. But the good thing is entrepreneurship shares some common values, finding the pinpoint, figuring out solutions, try and error, um, MVP, lean startup, and all that. So I think what we are doing is we we kind of adopt and translate our culture into the program and let the kids feel like it's a real Taiwanese market or Taiwanese situation for them to enjoy, not just some artificial circumstances. So I think it's really needs a lot of local know-how and domestic touch. Yeah.
It does. It really does. Well said there, Roy. How, there are these pieces that cross over to all different cultures, right? And then what's really beautiful with our international partnerships is that we figure out how to slightly pivot and slightly adjust to give it a look and feel that your cultures, any culture can then relate to more specifically, right? So it feels real, not like you're trying to put, what do they say, like a square peg into a round hole. And
Yeah.
it truly can adjust and fit like that, which is wonderful. How do you think parents, I know you all are still relatively new, but how do you think parents and teachers respond like when they first encounter the approach? Like what surprises them maybe?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, a lot of Taiwanese teachers, educators, and parents, they are already very open-minded, and they have experienced a lot of PBL, project-based learning programs in schools or elsewhere. But for BizWorld, I think one very interesting thing for them is they, I believe they wholeheartedly believe their kids enjoying the program a lot. They're having fun. They think, well, a very honest feedback shared to me once is, I don't think my kids is feel like he's learning. He believe he's playing a game. I think that's a brilliant and that's a wonderful phrase I've ever heard.
It's right. Thanks for sharing that. Right. When a parent comes and gives the feedback, of my student, my child, my kid doesn't actually feel like he's learning, not in the sense of he's not learning, right? He's like, oh, he doesn't feel like he's learning anything. It's like, no, it's he's having fun.
That's a
He feels like he's
compliment.
playing a
Yes.
game. That is a
Yeah.
huge compliment, right? To actually be able
Right.
to make education fun is something that a lot of students and parents probably don't think is possible.
That's so difficult, honestly speaking. Yes.
It's so exciting when parents and children, students feel that they're just playing a game and having fun instead of being forced to learn. It's such a beautiful thing. So Rick, I'm curious, right? Now it's 2026. But in general, why is now the right moment for schools and educators to implement youth entrepreneurship programming?
It's 2026, just like you said. AI can do coding, generating marketing plans, drafting business plans, and everything. So if kids are only memorizing knowledge or facts, they're preparing for jobs that won't exist by the time they graduate. So I think it's exact the time we need to bring and introduce the entrepreneurship program in the school curriculum. AI can replace knowledge, but it cannot replace entrepreneurship. Skills like human empathy, making tough calls in deep ambiguity, and having grit to bounce back from failure. They're very uniquely human. So if we don't teach this now, we're failing our kids. That's why I think it's right timing.
Well said, right? With AI, all of these facts, right? They're out there. They're a click away, right? Which even with Google and the internet has been more and more true over the last
Yeah.
decade plus, right? 2 decades. But now, especially, right? If we aren't teaching them the critical thinking piece, the problem solving piece, right? Even the leadership and communication, we're not preparing them for the future jobs, right? We're preparing them for things that are going to be phased out, totally outdated.
Yeah. Especially for those jobs, if we can call that, maybe they're not exist here today. So,
Mm.
well, those knowledge or skills they're learning today, maybe
Mm.
it's going to be useless. So the real life skill,
Yeah,
I still believe it's entrepreneurship.
wonderful. So we're obviously trying to constantly expand to more countries. And you know what? We're not even necessarily just trying to expand BizWorld to more countries, but we're trying to get more generally youth entrepreneurship programs, right? Everywhere in the world. So I'm curious. Let's say if every country ran a youth entrepreneurship program, right? They were teaching youth life skills through entrepreneurship. How do you think the world would be different?
Other than the war piece, I truly believe so. But by the way, yeah,
Mm.
I think, honestly, I think first thing first, I think the online scam would drop by 80%. Everybody can do critical thinking and have the ability to tell things which is true, what is wrong, and all that. And the most important thing is the real world problem solvers will increase by double. So there will be a lot of doers than complainers. Well, then you get a cheap war piece.
How amazing would that be? Right. I like how
Yes.
you also said having achieve world peace, yeah, ultimate goal.
Yeah,
But dropping online scams, right? How interesting is that? Like, sorry, explain that for me just a little bit more. I know
of
this is just
course.
a general idea, hypothesis, but what are
Yeah.
your thoughts there?
Well, the first thing is, yeah, those online scams, they well, you need to have a very important ability to tell what is a lie and what is truth. Well, I think one thing that entrepreneurship program give the child or anybody the most is you have to you have to tell things what they really are by yourself. So when you receive an information, you receive a piece of document, you receive anything, you have to stop and think over. You cannot let anyone else drive your thoughts to what they plan to do. So I think the key issue for entrepreneurships is trying to develop one very important ability is you have to think independently. And that's, I think, the key weapon when you're finding a pain point, when it's a key weapon when you're developing a solution. And that's also a key weapon when you try and iterate yourself and your product. You have to think independently. If you can figure out you need to think independently and you are thinking independently, that's what I said. Online scam will drop 80%.
Thinking independently. Roick, well said. You know, online scams can then drop, right? It would be
Yeah, that's an
unbelievable. I love
yeah,
that.
that's an idea. Yeah, yeah. Every
It's an
entrepreneur
idea.
I've ever met, they think independently. They don't let others drive their ideas over his. So yeah, I think that's a
Amazing.
very
You know,
good
another
side
piece that
effect.
I'll
Yeah.
a really good side effect. Another piece that I'll put out there is that I was having this conversation around with the internet and social media. Anybody can have an opinion, right? And every opinion that's put out isn't vetted. There isn't somebody that's saying, okay, you have to have a college degree or you have to have a certain amount of hours studied on a topic or a certification to be able to speak on it. And then the social media algorithm isn't vetting if something is true or not. And so all of a sudden, we're getting information that might not be true, right? And we're consuming it every day. And if we don't have the skills and ability to think independently, to critically analyze information that's being presented to us and said, wait, maybe this isn't true, right? And then go do independent research or realize for yourself, I don't have to believe what is being told to me, right? I can critically think and come up with my own ideas, my own perceptions. I think that is more important than ever. And now, even throw in with AI, not only might the message not be real, the entire video that you're seeing, this person might not even exist. So, critical thinking and analysis is more important than ever.
Exactly. Exactly. And also, one thing I would like to add, if I may, is
Yes.
asking questions before you believe anything. That's also one very important element that entrepreneurship want to bring you. Always ask why. Is this true? Are you sure? Challenging all the ideas and challenging all the impossibilities or the pinpoint you're facing. That's exactly what the entrepreneurship program want to bring you. And that's why you can think independently.
Right. So let's look into the future, right? Let's
Yep.
fast forward 3 to 5 years. What does BizWorld Taiwan look like at scale? What are you building towards? What do you picture for the future of BizWorld Taiwan?
Well, I do have confidence in BizWorld. So I want BizWorld Taiwan to become a gold standard for project-based learning in school nationwide. Whether it's a top-tier private schools or a rural school elsewhere, I want kids to have a dedicated BizWorld hour in their weekly curriculum. And building the ecosystem, that's very important. Building the ecosystem countrywide and connect all the kids and youth to the world. I think that's the one very important thing that BizWorld can bring to Taiwan.
Connecting the youth to the rest of the world as well.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. So some people might not be familiar with the Draper Innovation Index. It is an arm of BizWorld where we look at data and reports, and we actually rank different countries on their level of innovation, right? How quickly they're growing, how much they are innovating. Uh, Taiwan ranks very high. The economy is growing, and there's innovative minds expanding every single day. Curious, how do you see maybe BizWorld helping to shape Taiwan's next generation? How can it actually affect the economy in Taiwan?
I appreciate the Draper Innovation Index. Well, I think one thing very important is I believe the Bees work can be a very powerful catalyst, especially on at the educational policy level. We don't just want to help Taiwan train next generation of brilliant engineers, like I mentioned. That's good, but that's not good enough. We want to cultivate the visionary business leaders who can actually lead those engineers to change the world. So I think that's one thing I believe the BizWorld can bring to Taiwan.
Wonderful. And so through that, right, not just developing engineers,
Yeah,
but developing more critical thinkers, right? What actually is that impacting on the economy?
I'm sure that one of the key reasons that we have great scores through Draper's Innovation Index is we have a strong team of engineers. And don't get me wrong, we're very proud of that. But I think for the next step for Taiwan, a visionary business leader who can lead those engineers is very, very important as well.
Absolutely. Oh, leadership, right? Another huge skill that is taught
That's right.
through
That's
youth
right.
entrepreneurship education. A huge skill. Curious, before you all launched Hohoka or brought on BizWorld, what was like a question that you were sort of wrestling with, whether you decided, is this the right path to go or not? Can you think back and maybe remember what were these questions of should I do it? Shouldn't I? What was sort of going through your mind?
Before officially partnering with BizWorld, we have our own program. We have our own financial literacy program as well as entrepreneurship program for kids and youth. And we focus on SDG entrepreneurship ideas. And luckily, we been acknowledged and had a chance to got some rewards in Taiwan, both from public sector and private sector. But the reason why I'm thinking to take Hohoka and the whole Taiwan society to the next step is because I think we need international connection. And I've been researching and looking to these wars programs for a long time. I believe we share the same value and we care the same issues. The most important thing is connecting Taiwan kids to the world is very important. And this work program exactly provide us and our curriculum the, the key to the world. So I think that's why we decide to considering partnering with the BizWorld. And right now, I'm sure, like I mentioned, I have every confidence in this collaboration.
And speaking of connecting Taiwan and the children to the world, there's a BizWorld camp coming up that you all are partnered in, right? Tell us just a little bit more. What is this camp? What's going on?
Of course, I think we're very glad, and as far as I'm aware, this is the first time this Warzone program ever officially open to Taiwan students. So we really looking forward to this opportunity. In fact, the age of 10 to 13 is a critical stage where kids begin to build their self identity, thinking about who I am and what do I want. For Taiwanese students during this summer camp period, I believe having the experience of living independently in a foreign environment, making new friends, collaborating with unfamiliar kids, and making decisions with real world challenges, this impact far exceeds any regular school curriculum or tutoring class. So we're incredibly excited about this. For me, I'm really looking forward. Well, honestly speaking, I don't expect a perfect, flawless final pitch, but I do expect to see a Taiwanese student using slightly hesitant English, but with sparkles in their eyes, debating their ideas with other kids and or even mentors, or a team facing bankrupt in the BizWorld camp, or zero sales in the pop-up mart, not crying, but taking a little reset and saying, "All right, let's pivot." That's something I really expect to see.
That's so exciting. And so it's coming up pretty soon. Like when actually is the Biz World Summer Camp happening?
It's July 27th. It's a 4-day camp. And we're also considering the
Pretty
last day, July 31st, as an international student day, but we'll see. Yeah.
really exciting. And so is that going to what's it going to involve? Is it mostly digital? Is it actually flying out to Silicon Valley to participate in this program? What does it look like?
That's right. That's right. Well, here in Hohoka, we are introducing our 10 days trip to Silicon Valley. So bringing Taiwan students to Silicon Valley. The first 5 days is for the camp, but the last 5 days are we have our own design. It's really, I would say, it's really interesting. It's highly entrepreneurship and innovation related activities. I believe the kids and parents will like it.
I'm sure I'm kind of jealous. I wish that I could go. Sounds like it's going to be a great trip.
I
So,
want
Roy,
to see you
thank you
there,
so much
of
for your
course.
time. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to
Yeah.
say, thank you so much for your time already. I'm always curious. Let's say that there was another international partner or another country out there that is considering youth entrepreneurship programming, that is considering BizWorld. Like, what would you say to them about the partnership and about potentially moving forward?
Yeah. To my fellow education entrepreneurs, fellow friends around the world, stop stopping. I know, I know in your country right now there are millions of brilliant kids, but they're trapped under a very heavy weight of backpack and standardized exams. And BizWord is the exact key you need to unlock their innate creativities. Taking us as an example, by joining this global network, you aren't just buying a curriculum, you're gaining a tribe. So well, let's redefine this AI century education altogether.
Thank you so much. I really greatly appreciate it.